What's up, folks? Welcome back to TacticalTortoise. My name is Trevi, and well, we do talk about mostly Warhammer 40k on this channel, hence this huge Warhammer 40k poster I put on my wall. I do also like to keep tabs on other miniature games within the gaming sphere. And recently, I was scrolling Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, where I follow several Age of Sigmar creators, mostly because they're pretty fun, and I like keeping tabs on the Age of Sigmar community, but also they post good stuff. But I did see some tea brewing within the Age of Sigmar community. Just a couple weeks ago, the London GT was held. For those who don't know, this is an enormous Warhammer event. It has almost 1,000 Warhammer 40k players that attend it every year and hosts side events for a variety of other games, including Age of Sigmar, where it held an 80-player major. 80 players isn't too bad for an Age of Sigmar tournament. Age of Sigmar tends to have a less volume of competitive players and lower event size than Warhammer 40k, so 80 players is still a pretty significant Age of Sigmar tournament. Although according to a bunch of comments about Warhammer Fantasy from last week, way smaller than Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition events, which I had no idea had the player base that it does, but a lot of commenters let me know, which thank you for. I didn't know that Fantasy 6th Ed was as well patroned as it apparently is. Now, with such a concentration of skilled players, there is almost always spice from the LGT. This year, however, we got it from Age of Sigmar. The more the world changes, the more things stay the same. And the LGT never fails to entertain. So I came across this post from Team England AOS. Now, by their own admission, this is the official account for the English WTC team, or the AOS Worlds team that's representing the country of England. That's the international worldwide event where teams from each country compete to determine the best country at playing Age of Sigmar for that year. This post was titled An Apology. At LGT, there were 2 draws in the last round where we asked the TO to switch the competing players. These 2 draws involved 4 England squad members drawn against each other, and we asked for the switch to create matchups in which the competing players needed practice. Although the draws were initially switched, the switched were reverted, and the players played their originally drawn opponents. The players involved in this were not able to podium or win any awards at this event, having already lost at least 1 game each. Our actions did not change the draw of any player outside the England squad. At the time, we didn't consider the impact our actions had on the experience of uninvolved players at the event. This decision was taken by the English management team, and no England player was aware it was happening. The players have subsequently made it clear that they do not approve of it having happened. We made a mistake, and we've learned from it. Now, as a lot of commenters have pointed out, this is initially not really an apology, more just an explanation of what has happened. Also, replies are disabled, which is a mood, but that hasn't stopped quote tweets. And I do want to throw some commendations out here. First of all, it looks like the TOs originally had considered making these switches and then decided not to, which I think was absolutely the correct call. In addition, I think it was relatively easy for Team England here to just sort of sweep this under the rug and not really mention it whatsoever. I do appreciate that they have come clean with it and made a statement to the community, but that won't stop us from clowning on it at least a little bit. Now, the replies to this thread are absolute gold. Hey, nice, actual match fixing taking place. We're one step closer to being a real sport. All we need now is, for some reason, like AOS Worlds next year to be held in a newly constructed stadium in like Qatar. AOS Worlds is living so rent-free in English AOS's heads for 6 nations that they needed to fix up some extra practice games mid-event. Gotta respect the dedication to the grind. 6 Nations is another international team event in which 6 teams compete rather than the full-scale AOS Worlds event. This past year was a competition between Wales, Sweden, England, Northern Ireland, Ireland proper, and Scotland. My local FLGS has a few tables spare most nights if you need a place for team practice games. Definitely a little weird that we would use a competitive event as like specifically team practice. Normally, I think the most effective practice would be between team members and dedicated practice nights where you can really kind of concentrate the experience. Competitive games are good experience, but I don't know if they're quite as good for practice or like matchup testing, because you're not, you know, going to do redos or takebacks so much in a competitive event. Six Nations does take place in end of November, so that is just about 2 months away from the LGT. So I can see where the practice games would be, but AOS Worlds is in June, so you definitely wouldn't be getting in practice for that event, because the game's going to change by then. We also had some very based takes as well. Eric Sundberg says, good that you learn. I understand that the level of commitment being part of a national team makes you prioritize that at all times, but it's no fun being an opponent at or a TO for an event if you are only treated as a tool for training. Respect the event and the opponent. This is absolutely correct. The event doesn't exist to support Team England. It exists for the players to get their experience and compete at. Trying to manipulate the event for the benefit of only 6 people puts them and their interests ahead of the rest of the community, and I think that's a little narcissistic. Grand Farmhammer says something similar. Pathetic behavior. Stop thinking that your team means more than the event. Host your own practice games if you want to engineer matchups. I'd be pretty ashamed to be part of that team, to be honest. Now, I do want to reiterate something that the apology message said. According to the AOS Team England, there was no decision making here made by the players, only by the team management, whatever that means. Phil Payne Stuff also said, what a ridiculous situation to put a TO in. A clear misuse of position to influence or pressurize the TO is a massive breach of integrity. That I 100% agree with as well. I would hate to be the TO that someone, you know, who's a team captain and who probably has some level of clout within the community comes and asks you to do this thing that's like kind of shitty. That would just suck, because like you risk sort of like burning that bridge and that personal connection, and especially because TOs will often work with teams, and, you know, team members or team managers can be part of these events. There's a level of cooperation that you want between all of these members of the community. The community in any of these miniature games is not that big, so any interpersonal disagreements like that can be really awkward, and having a TO be asked to do this kind of thing, it just sucks. I would feel so awkward asking that. It's funny too, because like, imagine as the as the team captain or the team manager for AOS England, you're like this evil puppet master. Oh, I want to see how that matchup goes. Let's put it in our pairing metrics. That's so weird and like Machiavellian. Aaron Wilson says this sort of thing makes Team England look like they think they're above the rules and that they think their players are better than others, that they can fix matches in the middle of a live event. It is sort of funny too that there's like this presentation that their players are like so valuable and so good, but apparently none of them were undefeated. Maybe you do need some practice days. Now, a lot of the comments do mention that this is match fixing. They weren't trying to engineer a particular outcome for the games. They simply wanted those matchups to occur. So they weren't changing the results of any games that would be played. They were just changing the pairings that would have happened. Now, to be fair, in any of these games, in any, I imagine any competitive situation, and also in, you know, miniature games as well, the pairing process is kind of sacred. You never mess with the algorithm. That dictates a player's entire experience through an event. So the idea that you would want to change that for the unexperience of your own team is very shady. There is also the point as well that because the Team England players were paired against each other, this had the potential to create more X and 1 Team England players than there were otherwise. Team matchups just happen in tabletop gaming events. It's like an unfortunate part of the system. Generally speaking, most tournaments will not pair players of the same team on the first round. So a lot of times, especially in things like Best Coast Bearings, you can register a team affiliation. So you can be like, oh, I'm on, for 40K, for example, I'm on Team Art of War, I'm on Team Battle Brothers, and you will not be paired in the random pairings with another member of the same team. I assume that Age of Sigmar has the same system, but after the first round and after the random pairings have been decided, all bets are off. It just goes down to whatever tiebreakers the event was using at that point. And oftentimes, because players of a similar team, because they play against each other a lot, are often a similar skill level, you will find that in later rounds, team pairings actually happen pretty often. So trying to avoid those is pretty shady, to be fair. And honestly, this is the first time I've ever heard of anything like this happening or almost happening in any miniature game. Usually we talk about dice cheating or people making up rules or stuff like that. This is kind of wild. But anyway, let me know down in the comment section what you think about this situation. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Thanks as well to everybody who supports the channel, either over on Patreon at patreon.com/tacticaltortoise, YouTube channel members, and Twitch subscribers. All you people are great and I love you. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.